against the Warrior, it's very, very strong indeed. As now we are going into... This is the list on Twitter.
Aside from today seeing it, and of course yesterday when we were looking over the submissions and playing the decks and trying to get a better idea of what was going through the player sets. Before that, right. I had never seen those two cards in the same deck.
I agree. It is brand spanking new. This list has been around for, well, a maximum of 2 days, because that's when the nerfs actually hit. But I mean, it could very well be that this is just a transitory list until we evolve onto something a little bit more refined and countering what the meta is more consisting of. But for the moment, this is the list that I'm seeing most heavily, and I think it's a pretty smart way of going about it. There are a lot of incredibly powerful Battlecry minions in Bone Warrior.
I think there's exactly 2 cards in Casey's deck that could have made him think about coining this turn. Number 1 was Blastmaster Boom, and number 2 was Dr. Boom Mad Genius. Casie plays very quickly for the most part. Him drawing those 2 cards, he rubs his eyes under his glasses and goes, right. I really don't want to coin here, but I think I have to.
Sorry, I thought you were saying that the Dr. Boom is the one thing that would make him coin. Where I was going to say...
No, would not make him coin.
Right, yeah, because Casie he's coining 3 into 3 every single day of the week.
This looks like Casie from last week.
Absolutely.
Having the 3s early on.
Yep, he's curving out very nicely indeed. I honestly wouldn't be too surprised if we even just see the Omega Assembly. Oh! Unless he top decks the Militia Commander, of course.
And something that I like about Casey's list that I'm still surprised players are not using, double Alec, double Clockwork Goblin. The 3s early add an immense amount of pressure to this deck. Normally, this deck is going to have to function fairly similarly to Control Warrior.
Yeah.
When you have 2/3 drops in your hand and coin, you turn into like a weird hunter deck, where it's like instead of getting hero power to deal 2 damage, you're just hoping that 5 damage kill commands to your opponent's face show up as they draw cards. Stupid analogy, I know, but that's what it feels like to me. Like, it feels like these Clockwork Goblins are more akin to an animal companion than they are to a Control Warrior deck.
I love these inclusions. Did you manage to catch Ike's kind of Grandmasters talk show he did earlier on in the week with Craig?
I watched just a little bit of it. I didn't quite have time to finish the whole thing.
Right, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure he'll post it on his Twitter, or you can catch the VOD on his Twitch page. That's IKHS, I believe is his Twitter handle. But anyway, he does like a kind of weekly wrap-up he started doing of Grandmasters, and both him and Crane, who were doing it, chose a list they liked most and a list they liked least. And Crane gave his best deck of the week to Casie. He thought it was the best built version of the deck, curving out beautifully every game, doing exactly what the deck is trying to do.
I did not realize you could do this. In my head, double Evocation just did not parse as a possibility. And 2 Grave Horrors is what RDU gets. And Super Collider is what Casie top decks! That is a huge draw!
Who is this man? He had already attacked face with both Clockwork Goblins before we had seen him draw the Super Collider off the top. A miracle has to happen now for RDU to swing this game back in his favor.
Infinite magic tricks into Mana Cyclone.
Why not?
Casie, you may notice the new Complexity logo, who, by the way, Crane is Complexity teammates with Casie. They were recently purchased by the Dallas Cowboys NFL organization, and they opened a new facility in Frisco, Texas.
Very fresh new set of the
super cool. You love to see that.
Also, another member, Tyler, in Grandmasters.
That's right.
Asia Pacific.
Saw Tyler compete in Asia Pacific, where he had a very close match versus Dawn that he narrowly was defeated in. But it was an exciting match.
Speaking of exciting matches, here for Casie, still plenty of options.
Yeah, it slowed a little bit. Just, this was a pretty big turn for RDU.
It's slowed down, but there's still plenty of interesting options. We could see double Warpath here is an argument, just to clear off the minions and push face. Ziliak's non-magnetized could come down, and then the Super Collider hit could be used to hit the 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice and Mana Cyclone together.
Mecharoo. Dynomatic here. Super Collider here.
Oh, that's true. Dynomatic as well. Yeah, okay.
Casie, extremely interested in pushing face damage as well. Uses a Super Collider effectively for a 3 damage swing to face.
This is Casie. This is what he does. He's realizing what his biggest advantage is in this game, which is making it as difficult for RDU early on as he possibly can.
Turn your removal into damage when you have a lead. Face go minions, minions go face, and when you have minions, spells go minions. And when you've hit them in the face enough with your minions, ideally, your spells go face.
You know what?
It's very simple when you break it down.
This is what I mean. Being a European Hearthstone player in EU Grandmasters, I've got to say, it's nice to have an NA influence of just smork.
It's awesome. That's what I love doing. And Casie, if you're not going to have a strong answer to a Doomsayer, you have about the second best thing you can do. Which, he drew Shield Slam, so he gets to Shield Slam, and oh my gosh! Casie, stop! Let the man do something!
Just shift his hoodie, like, yeah. So what? I've drawn the perfect card off the top. 5 turns in a row.
is getting beat up.
He absolutely is, but here is where one of the powerful turns starts happening. Luna against Warrior is remarkably powerful.
Mind you, RDU's at 12, and there's 2 bombs in the deck, and he's chaining draws with Luna right now. This is dangerous, but I think this is what RDU has to do.
And that's exactly what he is doing. Just trying to wrestle any kind of board presence back together.
And Casie here, the Geppetto, it looks interesting to me, but Luna and Sorcerer's Apprentice is a very scary proposition.
Yeah, which is why I'm looking at either Ziliax, I guess magnetized onto Mekaru, or with the shield block. Either way works fine. Take out the 2 mirror images with your minions, and then swing the Super Collider into the Luna for a full clear. Or Warpath is also worth considering. But I think I prefer the Ziliax line of play.
I typically tend to prefer not blowing up my own minions whenever I can.
Get a bit sarcastic with me there, mate.
Sometimes you gotta. Sometimes you gotta.
All right.
But yeah, let's
exploring the possibilities. But just look at this. A Divine Shield taunted minion in the way, protecting these 2 Clockwork Goblins, which, let me remind you, have been in play for 7 turns coming up.
Only turn 2 and turn 3.
That's insane.
Mage does not handle wide pressure super well.
It doesn't handle anything. It just has to do its own thing.
And that's why the Bomb Warrior deck, I think, needs to be built in the way that Casey's built it. You know, like, you take a look at Swid's list from the first match. It's doing a lot of these similar things, but there's only 1 copy of Elec. There's 2 copies of Acolyte of Pain, where Casie has 0. There's no Super Colliders in the main deck. Like, Casie is taking full advantage.
He gets the Lich as well. He would have added all those minions back to his hand. He could have had another Geppetto Joybuzz to throw down. And all these mages with his Warrior, especially as Casie is now switching over to his tertiary deck, which is the anti-mage variant, slotting in a 2nd Super Collider, 2 Big Game Hunters, and 2 Slams.
Takes out 2 Militia Commanders, Elysiana, a Warpath, and a Town Crier. On RDU side, we're adding up an Acidic Swampoos, a Messenger Raven, a Harrison Jones, and 2 Astromancers. I feel like RDU's list supplements a little bit here, but it much more aimed at Control Warrior than Bomb Warrior.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
For Casie, Augmented Elec into potentially Omega Devastator on the following turn. We saw him throw back a pair of Wrench Calibers and a Big Game Hunter in the mulligan. It really speaks, I think, to how important 3-cost minions are versus this deck.
He just wants to get him down early on and start hitting RDU as soon as he can. Also, because it gives him a nice little bit of response to early pressure that RDU could throw down, because I think we're seeing more and more as this mage deck develops, willingness to just play out Sorcerer's Apprentice, just play out Luna and demand that your opponent answer them. Because if the Warrior does throw down, say, a Shield Slam on a minion as small as that, you absolutely take that as a win as the mage.
And for RDU here, you know, facing down the Elec is presenting, you know, just about that exact thing right now. He would have loved to play Stargazer Luna, I think, on this turn. You know, you're going to risk it getting hit by Militia Commanders, but you can anticipate Casie taking those out because you get open list in this one. You know, in
That's
Specialist, right, as the decks pan out, you get to see what your opponent's game plan is in totality. So he can see that if Casey's gone with his Big Game Hunters with his Super Collider, it means that there is no Militia Commanders anymore.
As the onslaught for Casie very much carries on.
That's right, Chillwind Yeti, big weakness of Mage.
Well, I mean, yes, it is a big weakness of Mage.
Weird.
It's true. And it's also interesting because Casie, the obvious play on this turn, I would argue, was Wrench Caliber. You have the effect of Elec in play, so let's shuffle 2 bombs into my opponent's deck. But this is so in keeping with his game plan, which is to get minions on board, play aggressively in the early game.
Ooh.
What's making you ooh there?
So, RDU's drawn a card this turn. He takes Mirror Image, but now it's getting run over by the Sandbinder there.
Yeah.
So effectively, this Elysiana is going to be buying extra health unless RDU wants to try and disrupt this turn, which Mirror Image right now does disrupt the turn unless Casey's got a Slam or Wrench Caliber, in which case that Stargazer Luna is going to bite the dust. Casie has Wrench Caliber.
Yep, that's a pretty easy turn for him.
I am very worried for RDU that he's going to get pushed out of this game and not have the ability to fight back. Like I'm looking at, he needs to draw a Mana Cyclone, and honestly, I'm not sure that the Sandbinder into Mana Cyclone is going to be enough time.
I imagine Casie ends up taking the Hecklebot here just because Boom Reaver feels a little bit too late game oriented.
I'm looking at the list. We got 1 Doomsayer, 1 Khadgar, 2 Mana Cyclone, 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice, 2 Sandbinders, and then Antonidas Sea Giant, Mountain Giant, Mountain Giant. I am quite surprised that he's taken Hecklebot here.
Really?
Yeah. I don't feel like any of those minions are minions I want to hit.
Fair enough.
I guess we do add in an Ooze, a Messenger Raven, 2 Astromancers, and a Harrison Jones, so, you know, a lot of misses in there as well.
I think it was fine, especially as he can...
Another Wrench Caliber!
With minions on board, Casie was able to respond to whatever came out. But as you said, with the Wrench Caliber coming down as well, this is now 4 bombs that are in RDU's deck, soon to be 6, maybe even 8 if there's a swing and a Clockwork Goblin next turn.
My gosh!
RDU is being blown to Kingdom Come here.
You got a Calling, right?
I guess.
If your opponent's going to Super Collider, it overrides it.
They have to override the weapon, yeah. So Elemental, Evocation, then Mountain Giant and Conjurer's Calling.
And I feel like you have to do something to try to grab an aggressive edge because the bombs have built up so densely in RDU's deck after this next weapon swing that if you don't start getting going now and try to close this game, Casie has a lot of inevitability on his side.
And so, okay, so other options, you would like to play the Ooze on this turn, so we could see Ooze double Ray of Frost Mana Cyclone just to stop any damage coming through whatsoever.
So let's talk about Ooze, Quad Ray of Frost, and Mana Cyclone.
Okay.
So the ordering there is going to be to generate the proper amount of cards in your hand, because the Ray of Frost, because they're 2 spells, ends up filling up your hand too much.
You pretty much always just way overdraw there, and I think it's coming to the same conclusion that you did right at the start, which is, that's fancy, but this is the most powerful. You just got to pray you get some Grave Horrors here. That's 1. That'll do for the moment.
Oh boy. Huge draw from Casie. 7, 10 more damage.
This could just be game.
And there's 6 bombs in RDU's deck, and he's at 5. For the rest of the game, if RDU draws a single bomb card,
the game
right
is over.
Now, it's a 4th of his deck. That's game. And he has to fend off the pressure, and he has to find a way to close. There's almost 0% chance RDU wins.
There's just, how does he even get back into this game? Conjurer's Calling allows RDU to maybe fend off any damage coming through.
My plan right now is face, freeze the board, and Conjurer's Calling, and I don't know, hope that something pans out.
Yeah. You got to end the game right now to have a chance as RDU.
3 more spells coming. No help.
So for Casie, I reckon we could very happily see a brawl on this turn.
Hecklebot thins the deck as well.
That's
so
true.
It actually increases bomb density.
I love this as well, getting the bomb down first.
Loads up the brawl.
Yeah, you don't care about losing minions here. You just want to make sure that nothing survives from your opponent. That's fine.
I mean, RDU's got to go. It's Astromancer, and you don't need to mirror image, I don't think.
Right.
Because you don't need to protect your own face. However, you might preemptively do it. The difference is going to be, are 8s or 9s better? And right now, 9s are stronger on average than 8s are. At one point, the 8s were very dense and very powerful, but it's not quite the same anymore.
Yep, I agree. With the, what is it, Heroic Bartender, I think, thrown in there.
However, if you think about the 8s that are there, I'm wondering if there's one that's actually a bigger benefit to RDU. Like, is there anything that provides healing, like Deranged Doctor?
Oh, Deranged Doctor's the big one, right?
So he actually could be seeking some strange outs in that situation to try to get the victory.
Now Casie, with the Geppetto Joy Buzz, if he was to find Barista Lynchen, he could throw that down first.
Well, it's a take damage turn.
Yeah.
Bomb.
There we go.
Casie, 2-0, and moves up to 3-0 in Grandmasters. Now, mind you, there were 7 of those in RDU's deck.